So, fearing that at least more than one hand was going to go up when I asked that question, what I will do is I will just take a few minutes to explain the People's Talmud, what it's all about, and then afterwards, if there are any questions, Moshe would be, I'll be happy at the end of the class to explain it further. And then I will also tell you that the class which we will go to, which you can leave if you didn't want to come for that, that's okay, is built on this People's Talmud. So it's a good example of what I'm going to share with you. So in brief, the idea is like this, that the Talmud is the OS, it's the operating system of Jewish thought. From the Talmud comes everything. You can go from there into Kabbalah, if you've learned the Gemara Chagiga and many other sources. Obviously Jewish law, Jewish philosophy, you name it, anything that comes, even those things which we identify as so distinctively Jewish. Women lighting Shabbat candles. Where do you know that from? It's not in the Torah, right? This is all in the oral tradition, and that which makes our unique relationship to the Bible is the oral tradition, right? For example, it says in the Torah or in the Bible, right, an eye for an eye. Well, what if the person who stabs out somebody's eye only has one eye? So if you stab out his eye, now he will be permanently blind, but he didn't blind the other person, he just took out one eye. Or what if the person whose one eye lost, his whole life was that he looks through a microscope and he looks at gems, whereas the other guy, obviously nobody wants to lose an eye, but he doesn't necessarily need the eye for what he does for his work. So therefore, the oral tradition comes along and says, certainly eye for an eye cannot be understood literally, and therefore explains to us it means monetarily. The value of that person's eye needs to be replaced, as if you were actually replacing the eye in its value of what was lost. Okay. That's one of millions of examples. Therefore, the Talmud not only is the platform of Jewish thought, the Talmud has also been that which has experienced every single civilization. Every single movement in history, the Jews have been there with their Talmud and extrapolating, continually adding and understanding and using the didactics and all the rest of what the Talmud is. In fact, the Talmud is the original Facebook. It's the longest running non-stop dialogue in human history that incorporates virtually everything from how do you tie your shoe to how many other inhabited planets are there in the universe. So the problem becomes like this: to really be able to access Talmudic law or Talmudic wisdom, either you have to know the real rigorous, and I suggest that it's worth knowing, but you need to know the rigorous understanding of how Talmud is actually read and understood. Clearly, knowing the language will assist you. Art Scroll and Rabbi Steinsaltz, these are tremendous and wonderful work, but they're only going to kind of help you kind of skim the surface, which may be good. And at a certain point, you will definitely fall off the cliff, because as one of my friends once said, I don't own an ox, so I don't care if it gores another person's ox. So at a certain point, merely doing the translation, even with a commentary, at some point could make the Talmud tedious and boring, God forbid. So now the question is, this Talmud has survived everything from the Greeks or the Romans or what have you, right through Auschwitz, all the way to today. But suddenly our generation tends to be disconnected. When you move outside of the 5% of Am Yisrael that really are engaged in the Talmud, and even those which I call peripheral, the Daf Yomi, which God bless them, they're wonderful. But most people in Daf Yomi, it's just simply going straight through, and it's a rabbi sitting up there spoon-feeding them. And if you ask them what they learned 10 pages earlier, chances are very little. So once you move away from that, you find that in other Jewish circles, Talmud isn't even relevant. It doesn't apply, it doesn't speak, and so on. So the People's Talmud is an effort, a massive effort, to revamp, I don't want to say translate, but to revamp the Talmud in a way that's very accessible to the millennials and to this world today. So what the People's Talmud has done, from the beginning of the Talmud of Brachot till the end of Nidah, it, using certain criteria, has extracted 8,000 primary concepts of what's in the Talmud, and has repackaged them because it's a Talmudic primer. In other words, its job is like a spark plug to get you started, and from there, hopefully, you'll go on and on and on. But as a primer, as opposed to a translation, it has no loyalty to the actual text. Its loyalty is to the actual thinking behind the text. So therefore, when you suddenly hit upon a People's Talmud quote, which we'll see in our actual class tonight, you might actually find that Bob Dylan and Rabbi Akiva are in the same paragraph. And then that way is because all of a sudden you'll find out that when Andy Warhol said everybody's got their 15 minutes in fame, well, guess what? That's actually a Talmud on page so-and-so. So therefore, it becomes an effort to try to take the westernized, or the world, because it also includes a lot of Chinese thinking as well, and Asian and Hindu thought, and to show how the Talmud shares these ideas, or maybe has a different take on these ideas. Now the problem became, when you have this much information, how do you navigate? How do you access this information? So what therefore became necessary were to build multiple gates to help you, the end user, find this information. So the one gate is using prehistoric dinosaur technology called Google, where you put in a word and you get a word, whoop-de-doo, which is cool, it helps. Question is, what if you have a word, but the word's not there? Let's say, for example, you have a phrase called circumstantial evidence, and you're a lawyer and you want to look up the legal approaches of law in the Talmud. Well, you could type in existential circumstance, nothing's going to pop up, because there are no such words which would then be appearing in the translation. But guess what? There are at least 5 times in the Talmud that discusses in depth existential circumstances. So therefore what was done is we made 3 other gates, and one of these gates is called lifestyle, and it runs everything from animal kingdom down to zodiac. It's 450 different aspects of almost every facet of human life that works in what is called in Talmudic language klal prat, as a group and a member of the group, so that, for example, you could come down under doctors and medicine, and a subcategory would be surgery and operations, and you would suddenly discover in the Talmud is brain surgery. You would suddenly discover the first liposuction surgery. You would find how to build a surgical room, how to prep a patient, and so on. Things which would be very difficult, and certainly an easy format to be able to find that information. The third gate is just simple listings, which would help you in terms of finding categories. So let's say, for example, you go into holidays, you want to find Hanukkah, and shoot, it would pull together all of these various, degrees of concepts that relate to Hanukkah and so on. And the fourth one are about 2,000 plus one-liners, which we really refer to more as teasers. And the teasers are kind of designed for 2 functions. One is to get you to say WTF, which, if you don't know that expression, stands for watch the fun, right? Or it stands for welcome to Facebook. Oh, okay. But they are designed to get you to go, what? And as soon as you do what, and then you click on it, it brings you into more information. For example, I could come up here and I could start, well, you know what, I'll reverse this. Whoop. For example, I could go in, I could click on something which says how to perform a sex change. What? The Gemara talks about that? Yes, in fact, even Rashi brings it in Sefer Bereshit. What's Rashi bringing Sefer Bereshit? Yes, bingo. You're like maybe 6 out of hundreds of people I used to throw this out to. Exactly. Leah is pregnant. She does a quick mathematical equation that if the boy that she has were to come out, etc., and zzz, it becomes a girl. In fact, the Zohar brings the same story by Yosef. Was a girl, and Rachel, zzz, and it becomes a boy. So, okay, how to perform a sex change, that's one thing. I mean, you use prayer as opposed to surgery, but it's a sex change. So therefore, you suddenly put it in that vernacular, it captures the interest of people. And that's what these 2,000 plus one lines do. But they have another function for people who really do enjoy learning. They become a tremendous way of chazorah, of reviewing learning. Because by going through these quick little one-liners and testing yourself with them, you get to see how much you really retain. In fact, we did a focus group test. We took people one woman who was in the group identified herself as a 3rd-generation left-wing atheist merits voting Israeli. To which I said, perfect. And we pitted her with others against a group of yeshiva guys, or not yeshiva guys, religious guys who had just finished Baba Metzia in the Daf Yomi. And we presented both of them with approximately 35 of these little one-liner teasers that just run the gamut of Baba Metzia. And to the Chiloni, whatever that means, we gave them copies of the People's Talmud version of Baba Metzia. Guess who mopped the floor with who? It was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. And as a matter of fact, if a person realizes what this tool is, again, it's not where the Talmud ends, it's where the Talmud can begin. It becomes a vehicle where any of us, myself included, you could, within a year, 3 times virtually upload into your brain, I'm going to say conservatively, even though I'm Orthodox, I'll say conservatively, 2/3 of all the ideas in the Talmud. I mean, what you do with it, that's another thing. And we're not talking about being religious or non-religious. We're talking about if you're Jewish, this is your heritage. This is your wisdom. This is your knowledge. This is everything. It's you. It's not owned by one of the 12 tribes. It's owned by all of the people. And in fact, it's even wisdom for non-Jews. Because guess what? Here's the big surprise. There's only one God who makes all of us. So one God loves all people and would love knowledge because the world was created in wisdom. And so therefore, when we elevate our capability for being wise, the impact of a wiser nation is the easiest path to healing our world. Tikkun Olam. So that's what the People's Talmud is all about. And with the last 5 minutes I'll now give the 2-hour class I had prepared. Anyone who would like, fearing that this is what people would think, I will show you that this database is designed to develop various products. And one of them, of course, is an online app that would allow you full accessibility to be able, to see and use this information and so on. But another aspect is print. So we have, God willing, we'll be ready hopefully soon, next 6 months or so, the entire Shas in the People's Talmud version. And we also have this kind of like really trippy sort of, this is a mock-up of course, but we will have something which will be about a 200-page catalog. The catalog is really quite cool because it uses a new kind of technology which is called print-to-digit. So print-to-digit means that you could like come in here, again, these are just example pages, but this would be, for example, it says the mystical, but there would be 15, 20 pages on the mystical, so you might discover that, and it always references where in the Talmud you can find these sources, so you'll find that the Gemara in Avodah Zarah discusses that there are actually 18,000 other inhabited planets in the universe. Okay, so you might read this little blurb, and again, we try to be very ADHD sensitive, so everything is like limited, but if you wanted more, you could then take your device, iPad or what have you, and it would read the page, and suddenly you would have an augmented reality where you would see little planets spinning around on your device while still looking at the page and bringing you more information, as well as a link to a website where you could then go further and further and further. So these are the various aspects of it. I'll leave this, anyone has a look afterwards, they're welcome to, but this is what I actually stole this, we're being recorded. I actually was inspired by the line of Levi's, if anybody remembers Levi's rye bread, you don't have to be Jewish to love Levi's, so that's what he put here, you don't have to be Jewish to love the Talmud, sharing Jewish wisdom with the whole world, and why? Because everybody has a soul. That's what the People's Talmud is in a very big nutshell. Okay.